That brings me to the interrelationship between the financing, investment, and the dividend decision. Now, this is something that is fairly obvious, and you have to, I mean, it's kind of, when you really understand the decisions, you realize that a company is just the sum of all of its parts, and they are all, it's like a vehicle. You have the engine, the tires, you have the entire mechanism, and if one fails, things don't run. So these decisions are key to running a company, and these decisions are interconnected. When one goes haywire, that can have a ripple effect on the other two decisions. That's what we mean by this. An investment decision, for example, right? An investment decision to undertake a profitable project financed by raising new debt or equity finance may impact several important investor and lender ratios, such as EPS, earnings yield, and interest cover. So deciding to invest definitely has an implication to the financing decision, and then ultimately to whether it's successful or not doesn't matter, but it will definitely affect, either way it will affect the dividend decision also. Financing requirements and cash available for payment of dividends are determined based on the overall consideration of the forecast future cash flows arising from the investment decisions, business strategy, and forecast business economic variables. Now, you see, financing requirements. What is the main financing requirement? It's paying interest to the bank. So, your ability to pay interest and your ability to pay dividends, that will depend on the success of the investment decision. So paying interest is related to financing decision. Paying dividends is related to the dividend decision. But those two, we are saying that they are related to the success rate of your investment decision. If you make a wrong investment, you're going to end up getting hit on the financing and the dividend side. Investors are going to leave you. Bankers are not going to help you. That is very important to understand. These links are very simple, very obvious, but quite important. A change in dividend policy can have an immediate impact on some investor ratios, such as dividend cover and dividend yield. Additionally, reducing the level of dividend paid out 1 year could increase the amount of funds available for reinvestment. So there might well be an increased level of growth in profit, which could impact ratios such as earnings per share. So when you change the dividend policy, not the dividend itself, but the policy that you have in place to pay dividends, your retained earnings could go up or down, right? Whether you decide to repurchase shares, share buybacks, if you decide to do that, what will happen to funds you have on your hand? And that can directly lead to your capability to invest in further growth for the business, right? Now, if you decide to buy back shares, which is related to the dividend policy, you don't have money to reinvest. So you might have to choose between whether you're going to buy back shares or whether you're going to enter into a new market. And when you have to make that choice, as the senior financial manager, you should be able to make the best choice for the company. That's what this means, right? So these are just a few examples of how interrelated the three decisions, the three critical decisions, the financing, investment, and the dividend decisions are. Very, very important. Okay. That brings me to the sources of finance. The financial manager must possess a good knowledge of the sources of available funds and their respective cost, and should ensure that the entity has a sound capital structure, that is a proper balance between equity capital and borrowings. Keywords in this: sources of available funds, cost of funds, capital structure, and proper balance between equity and borrowing. So these are all the responsibility of a senior financial manager. You have a whole lot of things to think about. That's the wonderful thing. You're not getting paid. That's all, right? But you will end up getting the CIMA qualification, right? And you will become a CGMA very soon. So that's more than enough return for this. Such managers also need to have a very clear understanding of the difference between profits and cash flow, bearing in mind that profit is of little avail unless the entity is adequately supported by cash to pay for assets and sustain the working capital cycle. So the importance of cash flow, right? You can't, I mean, however profitable you are, which is something that is dependent on the accruals concept. So even if you sell for credit, you might record it as revenue, and that might lead to bigger profits on paper. But if you don't generate the cash, if you don't get the money, going to have a few issues in running your business. A good example is overtrading. As a result of selling for very large amounts of credit continuously for a long period of time. So when overtrading is there, business can even lead to being bankrupt. So that's why it's important to understand how important and balance the cash cycle, the working capital cycle, while also profitability. Financing decisions also call for a good knowledge of evaluation of risk. Excessive borrowing carries high risk for an entity's equity because of the priority right of the lenders. So we have been looking at risk, and even with Usama, you discussed risk management, and we will be looking at financial risk also in time to come, specifically for Runabout as well. So when all these elements are put together, as a senior financial manager, we are trying to develop our ability to manage the risk. And in terms of financial risk alone, you have to know the systematic risk and the unsystematic risk. Those two areas are two things that we will see in the future slides. Now, when you're looking at sources of finance, you have to really understand the capital markets. Now, even Runabout is a quoted company. We are listed in the stock exchange. So capital markets basically means that system of stock exchanges that work together. So new share issues, for example, by companies acquiring a stock, market listing for the first time, rights issues, issues of marketable debt, all of these happen in the capital markets. Bank borrowings. This is another very common source of finance. Long-term loans or short-term loans, including bank facilities such as revolving credit facilities and money market lines. All these are sources of fundings from banks. Then you have venture capital funds, right? Venture capitalists. These are high risk finance provided by specialist organizations. The main problem is that the providers of venture capital funding tend to demand significant equity participation in a company and will also want to influence the policy of the company. So there's a give and take relationship there in venture capitalists. If they're giving you money, they're expecting a lot in return, but that is definitely another source of finance you have. So capital markets, bank borrowings, venture capitalists, governments and similar sources in different forms. You can get grants, subsidies, donations. A tax break could be a source of funding because you're really not having to bear that responsibility for tax, and you might save some money internally, and that money can be funneled into something that is very important in terms of investing or financing. So these are some of the other sources of finance. In general, finance can be raised via debt or equity. So debt financing and equity financing finally are the two major classifications of sources of finance, which is the first subtask under the core activities that we are looking at. So financing considerations, factors to consider when deciding whether debt or equity should be used. Now I told you, as a senior financial manager, you should have a really good understanding of what to look at before you decide whether to go with debt or equity. And those factors, again, for you, it would be reasonably obvious, but it would be really good if you can remember them. Cost of the different sources of finance, right? Now, if you're going for debt, you have to pay interest, the finance cost. If you're going for equity, you have to bear the dividend cost. The dividend payments will be a cost for you. And equity issues, share issues, IPOs can have other significant other costs, underwriting and so many other, there's a lot of processes involved in that. So if those are also there, you have to take into consideration that. So sometimes people go for a bank loan because administratively it's much easier to secure a bank loan rather than going for a share issue. Yeah. Duration, for how long do you need the money? How long do you need the financing? Lending restrictions, for example, security and debt covenants. Your company already might be subject to gearing covenants where you have already taken loans, or maybe your shareholders through their articles of association have set up covenants to say, look, the company can't go beyond a 30% gearing level. So which means they restrict you to go for additional debt unless you get their permission. So in that sort of restrictions can be there. Gearing level, obviously you need to pay attention to your capital structure, what mix of debt and equity you have, because maintaining the optimal capital structure, or at least being close to that, is very important when it comes to managing your finances of the company. Liquidity implications, the ability of the business to service new debt. So you don't go for a bank loan if you can't service the payment, the capital repayment element, and the financing cost, the interest cost. If you can't bear that, so banks, of course, don't lend to you, don't give you loans if they assess you to be not credit worthy. That's why banks have this credit worthiness check before you go for a bank loan. They ask you 1,000 documents, they want security, and there's a whole lot of processes that you have to go through because they are assessing whether you are credit worthy. So here, if your liquidity is at risk, then it's very unlikely that you might not be able to go for further financing. Right? The currency of the cash flows associated with the new project. So especially if you're a multinational corporation, if you have entities, subsidiaries, if you're trading with, if you're into import, export, if you're trading with other companies, as Runabout, we are trading with Minering. So their currency might be different, our currency might be different. There might be parity issues in terms of currency fluctuations, the inflation rates, the interest rates in our own, in the two countries, GLAND and DLAND separately, can have different effects to the currency exchange rates. So that is something that we need to consider, and the impact of different financing options on the financial statements, tax position, and the stakeholders of the entity. So these are the key factors we have to consider when deciding whether debt or equity should be used. Now let's take a look at equity financing for a moment. Now, to assess creditworthiness, I want to give you a refresher on what kind of factors a business looks at when they want to assess creditworthiness. One is the analysis of the business plan. So if you go to a bank, a merchant bank, let's say, and if you want to secure a bank loan for a business, they will definitely ask for this business plan. The lender will perform a detailed analysis of the business plan presented by the potential borrower. This will include detailed ratio analysis of the potential borrower's recent accounts and forecasts. So that's one. Business prospects of the potential borrower. Further analysis in an attempt to build up an independent assessment of the prospects of the borrower. So they will analyze you, yourself, right? What kind of prospects do you have? Security available. The lender will look at the statement of financial position of the potential borrower to assess whether there are assets that could be used to provide security for the borrowings. Lending the money secured on assets of the borrower would significantly reduce the risk to the lender. So obviously, collateral is something that banks never give any loans without. So that's a critical element. Credit rating. Credit rating of the borrower is also an important factor. An entity with poor credit rating will find it more difficult to borrow money. If the lender does decide to lend, a higher interest rate would be charged to compensate for the risk taken on by the lender. So credit rating is something that you would have seen, AAA rating countries, even countries get their credit ratings upgraded or downgraded. The most well-known credit rating agencies like Moody's Corporation, Fitch Rating, and S&P. So these are the three big three rating agencies. I used to work for one of them. This is definitely something that lenders look at, even if they are lending to a country, conglomerate, public limited corporation, private limited entity, sole proprietorship, and of course, in most advanced countries, in most developed countries, every individual, every person has their own credit rating. And depending on the credit rating, the credit history, you can either easily secure a bank loan or not. Other borrowings and covenants. The risk to the lender will be higher if the potential borrower is already highly geared and has debt covenants attached to its existing borrowings. So if they are geared, if they have limitations put by various parties to restrict the risk taken either by shareholders, either by the priority lenders, those who lended first to the bank, then obviously you will have problems, and that is something they will definitely assess before they decide whether you're credit worthy or not. Analysis of capital structure and gearing, the ability to satisfy debts falling due after 1 year. There are two elements: repayment of capital and payment of interest. So your ability to maintain your capital structure, maintain your gearing level without compromising on your capital repayment and payment of interest is definitely a key component that banks assess when they want to assess whether you're credit worthy or not. Okay. Now, the profile, the target debt profile is also something very important when it comes to debt financing. Once an entity has decided how much debt finance is needed, several issues need to be considered as the entity aims to achieve its target debt profile. What are the questions you ask when you're trying to decide the target debt profile? Should the entity borrow at a fixed or floating rate? Right. Very common, very obvious question to ask. Fixed rate or floating rate? Should the debt have a short-term or long-term repayment date? So banks could say, we can give you this loan for 5 years, but we can give it to you for 10 years. We can even go further. We can give it to you for 15 years. So you need to decide whether the time period for which you're going to get the loan for. Should domestic currency or foreign currency borrowings be used? Especially if you're dealing with international trade situations, this is a question you must ask. The answer to these questions will determine the level of interest rate, refinancing, and currency risk that the entity will face, obviously. So this is just a list of other sources of finance that you should be aware of. Retained earnings, I'd like to actually ask these questions from you and get the answers from you. But with time constraints, we can definitely look at a few examples through this table. Retained earnings and existing cash balances, sales and leaseback, grants, debt with warrants attached, convertible debt, venture capital, business angels, government assistance. All of these are different sources of funding in terms of debt that you have.